I don't want to spend Christmas with that pathetic failure. My hands stopped mid-movement as I was pushing the window open to air out the room while hanging the Christmas garlands. The voice belonged unmistakably to my sister Odessa. Honestly, Mom should make her repay every cent she spent on the renovation and then cut her out completely. It's humiliating having her as part of this family. Our mother, Martha, responded with an unsettling calm. We're already arranging that. All of our inheritance will go to you anyway. My chest throbbed painfully as I finished the lights on the tree. They cackled together, completely unaware that I was close enough to hear. She thinks she's some kind of handy little builder, as if any man would marry her. She's going to end up aging alone with her tool belt. Mom had begun hiding her phone every time I walked into a room. She whispered on calls. Odessa and she exchanged covert glances that made my stomach coil. After living as this family's daughter for 34 years, you learn to recognize poison when it's being served to you. I had given this family my entire adult life. I was unmarried and financially independent, which made me the perfect convenience. I financed their vacations, covered Mom's spa packages and designer handbags, and paid for the complete home remodel. And now, under the warm glow of the lights I had just placed, everything looked wrong and sharp and grotesque. Earlier that same day, I had spent hours decorating every corner, arranging centerpieces, prepping food, making sure everything was flawless. I dry-aged and seasoned the prime rib myself. I baked the holiday cookies from scratch. All of it. Because I always held on to this thin thread of hope that maybe this year my family would finally accept me. But the hope snapped. Something inside my chest set firmly in place, like wet cement hardening. I silently claimed back my time, my work, my energy, my life. I didn't yell. I didn't storm in. I simply adjusted the cranberry sauce in my hands, inhaled deeply 3 times, and fixed the most radiant smile I had ever forced. The week before the Christmas party, my mother's demeanor had shifted. Not her usual irritation when I dragged sawdust onto her pristine floors. Something more anxious, frayed, nervous under the skin. She criticized every move I made, but I assumed it was holiday stress. Christmas Day arrived. Everyone was here. Dad, Odessa and her husband, Bruce. Dad praised the renovations warmly, and Bruce interrogated me about my business income with that smug legal tone of his that always tightened my stomach. After college, I built my construction firm from the ground up. I started with my own hands and a set of secondhand tools. Now I oversee 5 crews. It isn't grand, but it is stable. It is mine. Mom never approved. Dad, Ryan, the university professor, never missed a chance to condescend about business efficiency and sustainable income planning. Odessa strutted through life as though marrying a lawyer elevated her automatically. Dinner moved forward as though nothing had happened. I poured wine. I served the roast. I smiled at my father's dry lectures. I listened to my mother compliment my cooking as if she hadn't gutted me earlier. Was this cold strategy always beneath her gentle expression? After dinner, Mom hummed carols softly while washing dishes. I urged her to rest and cleaned the kitchen myself. She stroked my cheek and said, "Such a good daughter." The words scorched on the way down. When she went to sleep, I opened her laptop. She rarely used passwords. I cracked it on the 3rd try. Emails, between her and Bruce, for more than a year. The plan was perfectly outlined. Once all renovations were completed, they would initiate the inheritance transfer to Odessa and ensure I was excluded. There were spreadsheets documenting what I paid. There were logs of how Mom had siphoned funds I provided for family travel into a private account. Tens of thousands of dollars. Gone. Then there were the messages with someone labeled VI followed the trail. V was not a financial contact. He was Brant, her secret companion. The messages weren't recent. They spanned years. Years of lies funded by my labor. I barely slept. The next day, I met with an attorney. Even though I had financed the remodel entirely, the original deed remained in their names. The law was not on my side. Everything I had poured into this home was at risk of being handed to Odessa and Bruce. So I'm expected to just watch them take everything I worked for? I asked, numb. The lawyer suggested mediation and family negotiation, but in my mind, I was already erecting walls, reinforcing boundaries, sharpening myself. My family had always underestimated me. They saw the flannel shirts and work boots and thought I was simple. They never understood that building something from nothing requires intelligence, strategy, discipline, and a spine forged in fire. The next morning, I began. I placed small recording devices in the kitchen and living room, installed a discreet camera in Mom's bedroom. I crossed moral lines I never believed I would cross with blood relatives. Then I baked cookies and smiled at neighbors as though my life wasn't quietly restructuring itself. That evening, Mom was jittery, checking her phone every few minutes. "Who's Brant?" I asked gently, while passing her the potato dish. Her hand paused, just a fraction. "Just a client with tax issues," she replied lightly, flipping the phone face down. That hesitation gave everything away. Later, I pretended to clean while she slipped into the study. I moved silently to the cracked door. Her voice was soft, tender. Nothing like how she spoke to her family. "I can't talk long." "Yes. I miss you too. Just a little longer, I promise." Every whisper hammered another nail into the coffin. But I didn't confront her. Not yet. I returned to the kitchen and turned on the mixer to drown out the anger while refining my plan. Over the following weeks, evidence accumulated. This wasn't impulsive betrayal. It was a decade-long strategy. I documented every receipt, invoice, and purchase tied to the renovation. Wood, stone, wiring, permits. Custom pieces I handcrafted. Landscaping. Total investment, $57,450. One night, Mom asked me to help plan Odessa's birthday. I nodded and gave ideas. Inside, I was hollow. Later, I sat alone in my workshop beneath the floating sawdust particles and realized maybe I had never been a daughter. Maybe I had been a resource. Days later, the first recordings came through. Odessa had visited while I was out. "Bruce finalized everything," Odessa whispered. "The legal grounds for removing her are set now that the renovations are complete." Mom's voice wavered. "Is this truly necessary?" "She is still my daughter," Odessa replied coldly. "But you said yourself, you can't stand spending Christmas with that failure. Make her pay for the renovations and then cut her out. A woman working construction? It's humiliating." Mom sighed. "You're right. We've already started. All of the inheritance goes to you. And when the transfer is final, Brant and I will leave. Ryan won't stop me. We haven't been a real couple in years." Odessa laughed. "So Ellen gets nothing. Let her make do with her adorable little company." My hands shook as I listened. The conversation I had overheard by chance was only the surface. The entire blueprint was now visible, and I understood. If I didn't defend what I built, no one would. That night, I initiated my final strategy. I drafted an urgent family financial discussion to be held on the day of Odessa's birthday party, under the guise of making critical decisions about the estate. It went exactly as planned. On the morning of the party, I completed the setup. I prepared the dining room, placing hidden documents near my seat. All the evidence, recordings, financial logs, property papers, was uploaded to Adablit. My mother had already set the table with the finest china. She looked uneasy, constantly checking her phone. I rehearsed the presentation, the exact order of evidence, and the timing of each revelation for maximum clarity. Strangely, it felt like preparing for the biggest project bid of my career. I wore my most authoritative outfit, a tailored blazer, crisp white shirt, and polished boots instead of my work sneakers, a uniform for the final appearance of their obedient daughter. From the stairs, I could hear my mother speaking quietly on the phone. Thanks to the recorder in the living room, I could review the conversation later if needed. but I already knew her co-conspirator and their plan. Let her enjoy these imagined final moments of control. Let her reassure Brant that everything was going as planned. Let her believe these last hours were proof of her perfect execution. The doorbell rang. Mom jumped and hastily ended her call. Dad arrived first home from work, predictably carrying an expensive bottle of wine. Odessa and Bruce arrived shortly after. All participants were present, each unknowingly playing their part in my carefully orchestrated reveal. As we moved toward the dining area, Mom's phone lit up in her pocket. Before she could silence it, Brant's name flashed across the screen. I sat at the head of the table and placed the folder of evidence beside my plate. Mom sat to my right, Dad to my left. I controlled the story. As Dad debated wine selections, istooed, and raised my glass. The conversation ceased instantly. I smiled deliberately at each family member, leaving Mom for last. Before we celebrate Christmas tonight, I said, raising my glass higher, I'd like to toast to family, loyalty, and finally acknowledging the truth beneath our beautiful renovation. The confusion that crossed their faces was merely the overture. They had no idea what was coming, and neither did Mom. I calmly took a sip of Dad's expensive wine. Now, I continued, pulling out the tablet. I've discovered a serious issue that threatens everything I've built. A problem festering just beneath the foundation of our family. Dad leaned in with barely concealed condescension. Budget constraints. Cash flow problems. I've always said your construction business lacked proper academic planning. Actually, I replied, connecting the tablet to the large screen. The problem isn't my business. It's our family. The room fell utterly silent. Mom's hand froze on mine. Ellen, she whispered tense. What are you doing? That's when I played their courting of her and Odessa. Their voices echoed through the beautifully renovated dining room. Odessa saying I needed to be cut off after paying for the renovation, calling my construction career embarrassing. Mom confirming they'd already begun the process, and Bruce saying they could even take the house. I paused the playback there. I watched each reaction closely. Odessa turned pale. Dad's expression crumpled in confusion. Bruce sat up, defensive, and Mom remained frozen, watching her carefully constructed deceit collapse like a poorly engineered structure. Next, I displayed screenshots of her messages with Brant, redacted for dignity, but undeniably damning. I withheld his name deliberately. For 10 years, I said with quiet strength. 10 years of deception while I worked 70-hour weeks renovating our family home. I turned to my father. Did you know Mom was having an affair? Did you know about the plan to kick me out after the renovations were finished? Dad was stunned. I showed the comprehensive spreadsheet. Every dollar I invested in the family home, $57,450. This is what I contributed to our family while building my business from scratch, I said firmly. Next slide. Documents of misappropriated family vacation funds and plans to exclude me from the inheritance. And this, I said, was their word for my devotion. The silence felt physically heavy. Then my father suddenly stood up, knocking his chair backward. This is atrocious, Martha. What is the meaning of this? Immediately, my mother grabbed my wrist. Ellen, you're misunderstanding everything. And Bruce, ever the calculating lawyer, began trying to delete files from his phone under the table. I pointed directly at him. The documents you're deleting are already backed up. Every hour you spent advising them on how to remove me. Bruce froze and looked at Odessa. My mother shifted tactics. It wasn't what you think, she pleaded, strategically allowing tears to surface. This is a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding, I repeated, incredulous. While I was earning money to renovate your dream kitchen while I was working for your entertainment, I had no intention of losing my composure. But something inside me cracked. For 34 years, I said, my voice lowering. For 34 years, I believed in this family. But I was just your convenient ATM. Then I displayed another piece of evidence messages between Mother and Brant, titled New Life Plan After Renovation. The notes included, best time to tell R for Ryan. And after securing funds from Ellen, your partner is Brant, Dad's business associate, right? The room went completely still. After the renovation, you plan to start a new life with Brant. Abandon Dad, cut me out of the inheritance. Give everything to Odessa. Mother's face turned dramatically pale. You investigated him? Yes. And I had coffee with his wife. I thought she deserved to know about your ongoing relationship. My friend Brant, a friend for 30 years, my best friend from college. Father's voice was ice. Mother sat speechless. How long has this been going on? Answer me. Father shouted, then smashed the remaining glass on the table to the floor. How long have you been betraying me with Brant? Ryan, please. He pointed around the room. All of this renovation, was it for him? You took money from Ellen to live with him. You robbed her inheritance, took my house. His face was red with rage. Fists clenched so tightly his knuckles turned white. 34 years of marriage, and this is how you repay me. He spoke quieter, but more dangerously. My friend, my colleague. While you were planning this, I was working alongside him. Mother was crying. You never paid attention to me, your research, your career. And how does that justify this? Father's voice shook. How does any of this become justifiable? You betrayed the entire family. You betrayed me. And worst of all, you betrayed your own daughter. That was when he exploded. He grabbed the edge of my custom dining table and flipped it violently. Food, wine, crystal all crashed to the floor. Mother screamed. Odessa gasped. Bruce jumped back. I sat still, strangely calm, watching decades of family illusions shattered around us. Mother kept repeating desperately, Ellen, please, we need to talk about this privately. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. How exactly were you planning to steal my assets? Continue your affair with Dad's former partner while claiming everything I built? I shook my head firmly. There's nothing left to discuss. I walked to the front door and flung it open. This party is over. Leave now. My father walked out on his own, and I escorted my sister and brother-in-law outside. Then it was just my mother and me left in the ruins of our family dinner. Where will you go? She asked in a strangely small voice. I've already secured accommodations, I replied. I'll return tomorrow to collect my equipment. You orchestrated this whole reveal, she whispered with disbelief. I learned strategic planning by watching you, I said, gathering my overnight bag. As I stepped outside, she called out desperately, You'll regret this. I did not acknowledge her. That night, in a hotel suite, I slept peacefully for the first time in days. The next day, while everyone was out, I returned to the house and gathered what mattered. Tools, equipment, business files, personal photos, and left a spare key on the workbench I had built. I had already rented a beautiful condo near my office. I wasn't hiding, just setting boundaries. For 2 weeks, I avoided social media, ignored non-essential communication, and focused on setting up the new space. My work quickly became a source of comfort. Construction had always been my true home. When I finally checked my messages, they had poured in 14 increasingly desperate texts from my mother, ranging from pure rage top-leading. At first, she expressed nothing but fury. How could you humiliate me in front of everyone? And you destroyed this family. Gradually, her tone shifted toward apology. Ellen, please answer. We need to talk. And I know mistakes were made, but families work through things. Then the final message. Brant just called to end it. He's trying to reconcile with his wife. I have no one left. I read the messages without emotion, feeling only fatigue, not victory, not justification, just emptiness. Like finishing a massive renovation only to have the client complain about the paint color, I finally replied, I've already filed for a restraining order. All I want is complete separation from this family. Her response was instant. No contact, please. Just one conversation. I sent my mother a final message. There's nothing left to discuss. Our relationship is over. All future communication must go through my attorney. Then I blocked her number. At the end of that week, a message came from Odessa. Ellen, I'm truly sorry. Mom may have let it, but I'm just as guilty. I can't take back what I said that night. But we're still family, aren't we? Please, let's talk. Bruce says he can support your business if you need legal advice. I immediately forwarded her message to my attorney. The next day, filings were submitted for restraining orders against both my sister and Bruce. After that night, my father contacted a lawyer. He conducted his own investigation and discovered that the affair between Martha and Brant had indeed existed. He was devastated by the depth of the betrayal and the fact that she had planned to leave him. He wanted to discuss revising his will and the distribution of his estate. He's considering transferring the entire inheritance to you. The lawyer said he plans to cut Odessa out completely. That's not necessary, I replied. No, he insists on it, the lawyer continued. He believes it's fair. After learning the extent of Martha and Brant's plan, and just how involved Odessa truly was, he's convinced this is the only just course of action. After I ended the call with the lawyer, I found a message from my father. Please forgive my ignorance. For too long I turned a blind eye. Now I will make it right. Everything I own will go to you. You are the only one who has shown true integrity. With reconciliation and a shared understanding of the deception we had both endured, I agreed to meet my father for lunch. 3 months passed. My new home was a deal. From the balcony of the spacious condo, I could see the lake, and in a corner of the living room, I stayed up late drafting blueprints in my workspace. There were moments of loneliness, but it was far healthier than the false relationships I had left behind. My father and I began meeting once a month. He too was seeking a new life. He had retired, moved to a small town, and started teaching part-time at a local college. Our relationship was being rebuilt carefully, but steadily. We avoided talking about the family. Instead, we spoke of the future. One evening, I began taking measurements for a new design project. Sunlight streamed through the window, illuminating my workspace. If someone asked what I was measuring, I would have said this. Not just the dimensions of the room, but the possibilities of a new life.